Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Ketvach Shavua Tov. We are learning Mishna Gittin, Parak Chapter 5,
Yeah.
Mishna Gimel, Mishnah 3.
All right.
Got it?
Almost. Go.
Okay.
Let's see.
Ein Moitzian Lachilas Peris. I'm just going to read the words and translate them first. Ein Moitzian Lachilas Peris. We do not take for payment. Do not collect payment for the consumption of the fruits, l'shvach karkois, or for the improvement of the land, l'mazayin ha'isha v'abanais, or for supporting a woman and the daughters, m'nechasim mishabadim, from properties that had a lien on them that were sold to somebody else. You cannot take them away from the buyers. These collections you cannot take from the chasim mishabadim. You cannot take from property that was sold. The property has a lien on it. It was sold. We know there are cases, for instance, when it comes to collecting a loan, there are circumstances where you could go ahead and and you could actually collect from the buyer, take the land away from the buyer. Here the halacha is you cannot take from these sold properties, for the betterment of society. Okay, so now that we translated, what are we talking about? So we've got three cases here. The first one is called for the consumption for eating a produce. That means like this. Here's the case. Listen to the case. Okay, someone stole a field. Okay, somebody was a goslin, he stole a field. Sold it to another person, and the buyer had grown produce in it. Got it?
The new buyer.
A guy went ahead and stole the field, sold it to someone, and actually worked the field, and grain was produced.
He didn't know it was stolen.
1 second. At the time, he didn't know. However, as is pointed out by the Bartanura, and this is very important, because otherwise it wouldn't be relevant. When the land was sold, a contract was written that promised the buyer that if the field were stolen and the real owner takes it from him, the seller, meaning the thief, must compensate the buyer for his loss. You got that? That means when the sale was made, the buyer made sure to put in the document of sale that if this land is stolen, because sometimes you have no way of knowing if it's stolen or not, if this land is stolen, then you have to pay me back for my losses. And the guy, agreed. The shtar was signed, and now basically you've got a document that says that you have the right to collect from this guy if it comes out that the field was stolen. Now that's exactly what happened here. What happened here was that the field was then discovered to have been stolen, and the owner took it back with the produce from the buyer. I mean, it's his produce, right? It's his field. It grew out of his field. It's his produce. So he took it all back. The buyer now can go back to the seller, the thief, and recover his losses, which are what? The field and the produce. Correct? Mm-hmm. That's what he can do. Now, it happens to be that the Bartanura points out that the original owner will have to give something to the buyer, meaning to the person who bought it not knowing it was stolen. At the end of the day, the buyer put out money and grew fruits for the guy, right? He invested, right? He invested money in producing these fruits. So basically, you benefited from that. So from the point that you benefited from that, you've got to at least give him the monies that he put into being able to produce this. But at the end of the day, he's lost the land, he's lost the produce, now he goes back to the seller to collect. Now, the Mishnah teaches that although the buyer can take the thief's sold properties as payment for the value of the field, he can collect only the thief's available properties as payment for the produce. Meaning like this, you're going back to the seller, who's the original thief, and you have a right to say, pay me back for the land and pay me back for the fruit. Okay? So now, the Mishnah is saying like this, when you go back to the thief to go ahead and take land, what if he doesn't have any land? All his land was sold out. But it was sold after this arrangement was made. So can you go to the buyer and take the field and take from him a field that had a lien on it, basically, in order to get payment for the loss of the field? The answer is yes, you can. But that's not the only thing you're trying to get payment for. You're also trying to get payment for the loss of the produce that was grown on the field. And you're going back to the seller, the thief, to get paid for the produce. Now, let's say he has nothing to pay you for the produce but land that was sold. Can you go to the sold land and say, well, hey, this guy owes me for the produce that was grown here, and I'm taking some of your land away because that had a lien on it? The answer is, for that, you can't. That's cannot. That's what it means. You cannot collect for the eating of the fruits. That means the payment that has to come to the buyer for the loss of his produce, whether the produce was eaten by him, or whether the original owner took it away from him. And actually, if the original owner, when he takes everything back, he can tell the guy, you ate my fruit. You got to pay me for it. But he'll just go back to the original thief, the original seller, and get payment for that. And then, however, the Mishnah is saying the payment for the fruits cannot come from sold property. If that's all he has is sold property, you cannot make the collection from that. You can collect the loss of the field from his sold property, but not the loss of the fruits. That's the first thing the Mishnah says. The next thing is l'shvach karkois, the improvement of the land. That means like this. Again, we're talking about stolen land that someone brought from the thief. If the buyer made improvements to the stolen field, he made improvements, he fertilized it. And therefore it went up in value. Okay? That increased its value. And then the owner took the field back. The buyer can collect the value of the improvement from the thief. Okay? That means when I'm going back to the thief and I'm saying you got to pay me back for the land, don't just pay me back for the land, pay me back for the increased value of this land. I can demand that also as part of the payment. And and they bring down here in the notes, whether I fertilized it, that means I did something for it to go up, or just went up in value. At the end of the day, that's all included in what would have been my ownership of the land that you have to pay me back for. Okay, but says the Mishnah, the payment for the improvement, the payment for the improved value of the land, again, that cannot be collected from sold property. The field itself can be collected from sold property. But the difference between what the field was worth and now what the field went up in value, that increase you cannot collect from the sold property, only from what is available to the thief, to the seller. Okay, that's the second case. The third case is mezain ha'isha v'habonis. That is referring to the following. This refers to the support a man's wife and daughters can collect from his estate after his death. It's part of the ksuba. Part of the ksuba is that after that, when he's gone, the wife and his daughters that were born from this wife need to be supported. They have a right to go to the estate and collect what they need to be supported. Okay, so now, what happens if the guy dies and they're coming to collect from the estate and there's nothing there? Nothing left. He sold his fields, all cash and movables, not there no more. Any land that he once had, he either sold before he died, or his sons after he died sold those fields. But at the end of the day, when they want to come and collect, they have nothing to collect from other than the sold fields. The Mishnah says they cannot collect from those sold fields. They can't. They cannot collect their support from the sold field. Something is available in the estate, they can collect from it. If there's nothing in the estate, the only thing is to collect from fields that we could say were there when they got married. The ksuba put a lien on them. Nonetheless, it was sold to someone else. You cannot collect from the sold field. Why? For the benefit of society. What does that mean? That means like this. The rabbis made these enactments for the benefit of society. And why? What's the problem here? All these payments have no set amount. There's no set amount to how much fruits are going to be produced. You don't know. There's no set amount to how much value it'll go up in. you don't even know how much the wife and the daughter are going to need. And the point here is there's no way for you to be able to protect yourself as a buyer from these things. Meaning, if let's say you go ahead and there's a set amount of payment for something, right? Set amount for payment for something. So my understanding here is, and I believe I saw this previously. So a guy has a debt. And now you're buying a field. You're buying a field from the guy. So you have the ability to investigate, to find out how much the debt is, and to make sure that when you buy land from him, leave him enough land that if the debt has to be paid from land, you'll take it from the unsold land. I can protect myself. I can do something beforehand. If something is a set price, I can say, the debt or the damages he has to pay is this or this amount. So you know what? I'm not going to buy all his land. I'm going to leave him X amount of land to make sure that could always be a payment for that. Hopefully. It could work out, won't work. It could work out not that way too, possibly. But that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to protect yourself. You're trying to protect yourself. But let's say you don't know how much. You don't know, let's say, for instance, you don't know how much the fruits are going to be. You don't know how many fruits he's going to produce. So there's nothing for you to do to protect yourself before you buy the land. What are you going to do? You don't know how much it is. And because you don't know how much it is, people are going to say, I'm not going to buy land. Why should I buy land? I'm going to buy land, and later on some creditor is going to show up and take it away from me. I don't want that to happen. If I have the ability to protect myself beforehand, to as I say here, in the case, it's impossible to predict how much produce will grow in the possession of the buyer, and and therefore the point here is, the point here is that they're not going to be able to protect themselves from collection of a creditor to this person they bought the field from, and that's going to cause them people not to want to buy fields. They don't want to take a chance. It's going to discourage people from buying fields if they can't do something to protect themselves beforehand. And in the case where it's not stipulated, there's no set amount, there's really no way to protect yourself. And therefore, because that would discourage people from buying fields, for the benefit of society, when the debt is something that does not have a set amount, that kind of debt you cannot collect from sold properties. And since whether it's the support for the wife or the children, the produce, the increase in value, none of those are a set amount. Therefore, we say no collecting that from sold property. The final case is like this: Hamaitzi mitzia lo yishava. If somebody finds a lost object, he does not swear, for the benefit of society. Now, what that means is like this. If someone finds lost property, he found something, and returns it to the owner, and the owner claims that the finder did not return everything that was lost, but kept part for himself. Oh, here's your wallet. Wait a minute. There used to be $100. There used to be $100 in this wallet. It's only $50 now. It's only that much. Okay, so basically, this guy is saying everything I gave you back is what I found. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this owner is saying, well, you found and you're supposed to return to me the wallet and the $100 in the wallet, and you say no, it's a wallet and $50. So that sounds like what we call meida b'miktsas, right? If I go ahead and I say to you, you owe me $100, you say no, 50. Only 50. The Torah says you got to swear. You have to swear that you only owe 50. That's a Torah. That's a Torah shvua. That's a Torah oath. Now, my understanding here is that this is the same kind of case, like they say. As they bring down, the finder does not have to swear to the owner that he returned all of it. He's saying, I returned all of it. And there would be an obligation to swear to that. Why? Because the owner says, you should have returned me more. And you say, no, I have to return you this amount, but I don't have to return you more. And therefore, that could constitute a meida b'miktsas, a partial admittance to a larger claim. And the Torah would say for that, you have to swear. The Chachamim made a law, no, in these kind of cases, you find something lost, no swearing. Why? Because if I'm going to have to swear in these kinds of cases, it's going to discourage me from returning it. Why should I return it if the guy can now all of a sudden turn it on me and make me swear? Therefore, they instituted that if someone finds a lost article, there's no swearing on it. Now, again, this is how I understand the case of the Mishnah, and that, like the way they explain it here. But at the bottom, they add something else. Another example: how far this law would this institution of the sages would go. Let's say the case is that I return the wallet, and you say, "Hey, there was $100. You're holding on to $100 of mine," and the finder says, "No, only 50.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only holding on to 50, but not 100. You're right. I'll owe you 50, not 100." That's a real ma'id b'miktzas.
Yeah.
That's a real ma'id b'miktzas, right?
Yeah.
Here, accordingly, even in this case, right, because of this law that was instituted that somebody who finds a lost article does not have to swear, even in that case, he's not going to have to swear. And it all goes into this law that was instituted not to swear for someone who finds a lost article, so not to discourage people from returning a lost article. Thank you for listening for such a long time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Rabbi.
Rabbi.